Hello, and welcome to Sincerely Elvis Presley. I'm Sean. Whether you're new to the channel or a regular viewer, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I want to talk a little bit about 1961 today, but before I do, I just wanted to say a big thank you to each and every one of you that have supported this channel over the last year. And the reason that's prompted me to say that is during the last week, the channel passed its first anniversary. So my first video was uploaded on April 14th, 2024. And here we are a year later. And so far I haven't run out of material, which is quite encouraging really, because I kind of thought I might do, but I think there's still some gas in the tank. So if you're happy to stick with me, we'll carry on. But one thing I did want to point out, the eagle-eyed amongst you, and it might not actually take that much of an eagle eye, may have noticed in the last few weeks that the rather jerky jump edits that characterised all of my videos over the last year have gone away. So if you will have noticed in the past what used to happen, you'd see a bit of a flicker and sometimes almost get a subliminal image of something else as it flickered in because I'd edit it so badly. I think other people saw album covers and things appear. This was simply down to the inadequate software I had to edit videos. I've discovered a much better editing tool, and actually I've kicked myself because that editing tool was available a year ago and I could have been using it all the way along. But anyway, long story short, the upshot of the fact that I don't need to limit the file size that I ingest into editing software means that I can ramble on for as long as I like. I have noticed since I have gone UHD, which is another sort of byproduct of this new software, that I do tend to ramble on a bit more than I used to, and the last few videos have run into the 40 minutes. So please do let me know in the comments if that's too much. We all lead busy lives, and if the thought of me banging on for 40 minutes it sends you to despair and it's too much, let me know in the comments. If I get an overwhelming reaction of people saying no, we'd prefer them to be a bit shorter, Sean, because frankly half an hour of you is enough for anyone, just ask my wife. I'm more than happy to try and stick to that and trim them down. But if you don't mind sticking with me for more than half an hour at a time, I'm more than happy to stay here for as long as it takes to cover what I want to cover. So let me know, just let me know in the comments, because I don't want to overstay my welcome to anyone. That would be the last thing I'd want to do. And also another thing you'll notice is that I am in, as I said, I am in 4K now. So if you've got compatible equipment, you'll see my wrinkles in even greater definition than you did before. The only thing that won't change, unfortunately, is the lighting. Now, I am aware that sometimes we have got sunlight coming through today. If I hold things up, the lighting fluctuates. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. I know a lot of YouTubers use these ring lights and things. You've seen the size. When I've done little tour arounds of this office, it's basically the size of a cupboard. So I can't fit. The lighting you see is the lighting that I work with. I've got a lamp there that when I'm at work I use, and I've got an overhead light and I've got a window. But I can't fit anything else into this to make the lighting any different. And kind of I wouldn't want to anyway in some ways, because my sort of intention for this channel was always that when I'm sitting here talking, it's as if I've invited you round to come and have a sit in my Elvis room and show you some stuff and talk about stuff with you. So, I want it to feel like that's exactly what it is, and that is exactly what it is. The lighting here is the lighting here. I mean, I think as I moved my hand there, I saw it fluctuate in and out. So I do apologise if that ever gets distracting. But unfortunately, there's really nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. But just thought it was worth that pointing out. As I've reached my year anniversary, I just wanted to explain a little bit about what I've been trying to do to hopefully make things feel a little bit less disjointed and a little bit smoother. But as I say, I don't want the upshot of that I bore you to tears because I'm going on for so long. And I appreciate that in saying that I've been going on too long. So I'm going to get on to today's topic, 1961. Now, 1961 began with an Elvis movie in the cinemas, certainly in the US, because Flaming Star was released on December the 16th, 1960. So over that Christmas period and as 1961 starts, Elvis is in the cinema. Here in the UK, he's not in the cinema because we didn't get that movie released until February 61. But in the US, as soon as 61 starts, Elvis has already got a film in the pictures. Now, Flaming Star. Based on the novel Flaming Lance, and originally called Black Star, but then renamed to Flaming Star. A serious movie by anyone's standards, of a mixed race character who is caught between two worlds and feeling the conflict and everything going on in those two worlds. It's a brilliant performance by Elvis. He delivers in spades, and it's a great Western. I would say it's, it's difficult to count Stay Away Joe, but if you count later on Charo as Elvis's, well, I suppose you've got Love Me Tender actually, so theoretically you've got 3 Westerns and a sort of comedy Western, if you like, that Elvis starred in. And to me, Flaming Star is by far the most successful. Charo, we'll get on to Charo, but Charo could have been so much better, but it wasn't. But Flaming Star is a great film, and I think Elvis must have been proud of his performance in that movie. And it's a shame, really, that it later got eclipsed as Blue Hawaii came out and was a box office smash. It got eclipsed by what followed it, and it sort of, it's almost a forgotten movie in Elvis's canon, certainly as far as the public at large are concerned, because it got overshadowed by the colourful travelogues that would follow it. But Flaming Star is a fantastic movie. I've shown this before. It's out on Blu-ray. It's a fantastic transfer on Blu-ray. It's also available on Twilight Time, but this one is just a standard 20th Century Fox release. Brilliant transfer, brilliant quality, brilliant movie. Absolutely nothing in the way of extras, which is kind of unfortunately what we expect with Elvis movies. Now, I've got this little release here. Now, there was a Follow That Dream release of Flaming Star. Now, you've only got 4 songs. You've got the title. You've got the title song, Flaming Star, and you've got the end version of it. And you've got their alternatives of Black Star as it was originally recorded. Then you've got the one song that's featured in the movie, Cane in a High Starch Collar. You've got a very similar feel song, Britches, that was cut from the movie and wasn't released until years later. And then you've got the absolute beautiful gem that was cut from the movie entirely, Summer Kisses, Winter Tears, which has always been one of my favourite Elvis tracks. I think it's beautiful, it's atmospheric. And unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, I kind of don't really see how it would have fitted into the movie anyway, so I can understand why they cut it. But yeah, so this is the release I have with Flaming Star material on. This is on the One label, the bootleg series, Elvis One. And this is Flaming Star. Elvis Presley sings Flaming Star and other songs from the 20th Century Fox movie, Flaming Star. And what you get are multiple takes, multiple versions, and they get some radio spots as well. I have to say, the sound quality on this isn't fantastic. It's passable, but I must admit when I first got it, I was a little bit disappointed with the sound quality. It's a nice little record of the material from the film, but it isn't a fantastic quality release, has to be said. But anyway, this is what you're getting for your money. I think we do get a little picture underneath the disc itself, and we do get a little booklet. if I remember rightly, plugs a lot of the labels other Elvis releases at all. So there's your track listing in case you missed it. Some nice little details, recorded information, liner notes. So worth picking up, but approach with caution with the sound quality, because I wasn't blown away by it at all. A lot of stuff on here is taken from acetates and what have you, so that explains some of the drop in sound quality. But yeah, I would have liked it to have been a little bit better, frankly. But I guess, you know, sometimes that's the chance you take with bootlegs. Still worth having, I'd say. But I would say if you've got the Follow That Dream release, you definitely don't need that. Okay, so with Flaming Star in the movies, January the 2nd through to the 20th, Elvis resumes filming Wild in the Country, and then he has to go back to reshoot the ending. So the character that in the original version was committed suicide. The initial audience reaction on the test runs and whatever of it didn't like that ending, so it was reshot. But we get into February and Elvis performs live again. He performs live in Memphis. He does an afternoon matinee and an evening performance, and that performance is for charity. So I think it's 27 charities are nominated that are going to get the proceeds for it. But, you know, it's significant. You know, the last time Elvis had performed live in front of an audience was 1957, before he went into the army. 1961, he's back in front of an audience again. Now, we'll get to that in a moment, because there is a very nice coverage of that in an FTD book. But February the 25th, Elvis performs live. March the 12th, overnight into the 13th, he's back in Studio B in Nashville to record some new material. And that material would form the basis of his next album release, which we again will get to in a minute. I'm rushing through a couple of things because I want to show some things, but I need to show them at the appropriate time. So, after the recording session, Elvis starts work on March the 20th on the sound, and to the 23rd on the soundtrack for his next movie, Blue Hawaii. On March the 25th, he appears live again, and he appears live for a benefit for the Pearl Harbor Memorial in the Block Arena. Now, we're going to get to that again separately, but that's going to be next time, because I'm going to dedicate the whole episode to that performance and some bits and pieces around it. So, March 27th to May the 23rd, Elvis then goes to Hawaii he was in Hawaii anyway, because he appeared for the benefit. You'll see, I'm waffling a bit. Right, so he then films Blue Hawaii. So let's get to the meat of those recording sessions and the album that resulted from them. Now, I think the naming of this album speaks volumes about the Colonel's new approach to the marketing of Elvis once he's out of the army. The first studio album in 1960, Elvis is back, a very obvious but very does the job title. Elvis is back. But the material that was recorded in March ends up on the album that's called Something for Everybody. And it seems to me that's very much the Colonel's new philosophy. There's something for Elvis for everybody. He's not a niche youth artist like he was the decade previously. There's something here for everyone. It could just be me. I could be reading more into that than there actually was, but it feels like the title of that album, speaks of a strategy, speaks of an approach, to me anyway. So, Something for Everybody, released May the 19th in the US, and we wouldn't see it until October in the UK. This is the UK original of Something for Everybody, and because it's already sort of showing shots from Wild in the Country, you get that feel that the Colonel's marketing machine is in full flow, because Wild in the Country is already in the can. In fact, Wild in the Country will be released the following month. This is released on May the 19th, and the following month, in June, Wild in the Country is released in the cinemas, both in the UK and in the US, although the US gets it a few weeks earlier. But actually, the film is released during the same month. So this is out in May, and it plugs the Wild in the Country movie. Now, does it? Yes, it does. A scene from the Jerry Wold production 20th Century Fox CinemaScope picture, Wild in the Country. So your shots are from Wild in the Country. You even get one song from Wild in the Country, I Slipped, I Stumbled, I Fell, and again, that's plugging it there. An original soundtrack recording from the Jerry Wold production 20th Century Fox CinemaScope picture, Wild in the Country. So one track is kind of highlighted out, plug in the new movie that would be in the cinemas just the following month. Now, this was an interesting approach, I thought, in that, even actually it says, you've got this little bit of blurb on the back, and it says the songs range from blues to tender love ballads with every stop in between. Elvis has even included I Slipped, I Stumbled, I Fell from the Jerry Wold, and plugs it again, Wild in the Country. But I thought it took an interesting approach where you've got side one is the ballad side and side two is the rhythm side. So it sort of differentiates between the two, which was an interesting approach, rather than mix up the feel and the flow and the rhythm of the tracks, sort of, splitting them out into a ballad side and a rhythm side, which I thought was an interesting approach. So there's your original pressing from the UK. What I do have are a couple of public domain pressings. So I've got this 180 gram, says it's limited edition, and this is a wax time release. Reasonably faithful. In fact, if anything, quite often wax time tend to look more like the US pressings, because the everything fills out the cover rather than having the white border that the UK releases had. So yeah, nicely done. I think that photograph on pretty much every release is oversaturated, but it seems to get oversaturated to greater or lesser degrees depending on the release. So we get a completely redone back, but nicely laid out, nice sort of feel to it of the time, I think. And then this one gives us bonus tracks. So what do we get? We get I Feel So Bad, and we get Little Sister, so from the previous year. So yeah, that's your wax time press. And then the other public domain release I have, I can't tell if that's more or less saturated than, because he unfortunately he seems to get more orange as he goes. But so this is the doll label, slightly more faithful to the original back, although not quite. And Doll do love a colour, and with this one we get a nice purple vinyl. So that's the vinyl that I have for Something for Everybody. Now, by far and away, the best chunk of those sessions we've got is the package that gives us the majority of the session, if not all of them. And, because it was recorded around the same time, and because it all fits into 1961, we also get the material recorded for Wild in the Country on this little beauty as well. So this is an absolutely fantastic release. It's a Follow That Dream Sessions release, so kind of goes without saying. As usual, tape box reproductions, and then your discs slotting in. I love the way that they always give us versions of RCA labels in different colours. I think that's a really nice attention to detail. And as ever, beautifully put together booklet, informative, just fantastic wealth of material. And these really were some great sessions. I mean, Elvis is in just top voice. There's a bit on the Memphis charity show that we'll get to in a bit. Wild in the Country. More Wild in the Country. More Wild in the Country. And again, you know, by the time Wild in the Country comes out, it's another heavyweight role, if you like, for Elvis. You know, it's a very straight role, very a committed and good acting performance from Elvis, without a shadow of a doubt. But the same goes for what I said about Flaming Star. You know, it's unfortunately both of them, in terms of box office success and, you know, the resultant album sales. I mean, both of these obviously didn't have enough recorded material to make albums, so they were restricted to singles or EPs or what have you, whereas Blue Hawaii would have the full album. But nevertheless, you know, both of these great movies end up overshadowed by the behemoth that is Blue Hawaii, and that would then set the trend for pretty much Elvis's entire career, what was in Hollywood. But, you know, superb sessions, superb release from Follow That Dream. While we talk about Wild in the Country, I've shown this one before. This is the Twilight Time release of Wild in the Country. Really nice transfer and master of it. Well worth picking up. This gives us a little booklet. Just great stuff. So yeah, it's a funny, you know, it's a kind of watershed year really, because Elvis is still going into the studio and producing great material. He's acting in movies that really push him as an actor, and, you know, really deliver in terms of what he's looking for. Yes, he still has to sing the odd song, but, you know, not to a huge degree. It's no different really from the 4 that he had to sing in his first movie, Love Me Tender. You know, he didn't really want to do that, but he did. But it was a serious movie, and he was able to put in a committed performance. As you get Loving You, Jailhouse Rock, King Creole, the number of songs increase a bit. Comes back out of the army, records GI Blues, which is a lot lighter in tone than anything's preceded it, and has more songs. But then, you know, he's filmed 2 movies that have a serious tone to them, that aren't, you know, jam-packed with songs. So, you know, I think he probably was feeling quite optimistic about the way his Hollywood career was heading at this stage. Unfortunately, things changed, but at that time, you know, he was getting, by and large, to do what he really wanted to do, and show his acting chops. And, you know, he delivers in both of them. Both are, I think, in terms of if I had to weigh them from my mind, I think Flaming Star is the superior movie. I think it has a lot more going for it. But Wild in the Country is a fine movie as well. So, right, let's look at this little beauty here. So this is Follow That Dream, Memphis to Nashville, 61. Now this is the safe hands of David English and Paul Granlund. And what this does is this takes us from the beginning of 61, and it really does concentrate heavily on the shows that Elvis did at Ellis Auditorium in Memphis. So we get a piece about the Ellis Auditorium itself. And I believe he hadn't played in Memphis since 56. So 56 to 61, that was quite some time to play in his adopted hometown. But yeah, we get all the little bits and pieces on the newspapers at the time and how they were reporting what was going to happen in terms of these charity shows. And they're an interesting thing in themselves, these charity shows, because out of all the things that we've got through Elvis's career heavily documented, we don't have a recording of either the matinee or the evening show. Not a single recording has ever surfaced. And even more than that, we don't know for certain what the actual set list was. We've got contemporary reports from multiple sources, and most of those disagree. So what we've got is and you'll see in this book, there's a kind of a mean average that they've arrived at of, okay, well, nearly everyone says he did that. So, and they've sort of come up with a set list that for both shows that was likely to have been the set list, but we don't know for sure. We don't know for certain. So, yeah, beautiful, beautiful detail. Follow That Dream book. Rehearsals. Apologies if I'm sniffing every now and again. I'm not sure. I had a bit of a stinking cold last week, and I can't work out if I've still got the tail end of that or if I'm starting to get a bit of onset of hay fever. But yeah, I'm a bit sniffy, so I apologise if I sniff every now and again. So there's the luncheon, the guests that all arrived before, you know, the dignitaries I think they declared it Elvis Presley Day, and he sort of, all the dignitaries were there. And obviously it was a big event, you know, he's performing these charity shows, and all this money is going to be raised for local charities. And I think there were 27 charities in total that benefited. And what you'll see, I'm not sure if they're in this one, but yeah, they are actually, but only just. So around this time and before, you can't quite see it, but Elvis is wearing his lapel pin, which is a black belt karate badge. So he was obviously so proud of winning that black belt. The first time you saw it was during the photo sessions for his Hand in Mine, and he's got it on his Hand in Mine cover on the lapel. But there's loads of different photographs taken around the time through those photo sessions. He's wearing a different coloured shirts. There's a green shirt, different jackets, and that lapel pin is on all of those photographs. So he's obviously, you know, proud as punch, because let's not forget 60 was when he got his first black belt. But into 61, he's still wearing that lapel pin with pride. I'll see if we can pull it out. Unfortunately, some of the shots, I don't know if you can pick it up there, but you can see it just there. And yeah, so these are all. He looks a little bit uncomfortable to me. You know, it's a very formal setting, and Elvis wasn't a particularly formal guy. I mean, he could adapt to everything, obviously, but yeah, I can't imagine he felt that comfortable in such a formal surrounding, because that wasn't really him, was it? But like I say, he was an adaptable guy. Could charm the birds out of the trees, couldn't he? Right, Hotel Claridge. Press conference at the Hotel Claridge, February the 25th. So he's had the formal dinner, which I think might have been the day before. Was that the day before? No, it's not going to give me a date. Now I'm flicking through. February, yeah, it's the same day, February 25th. So he has the luncheon, and then gives the press conference. There's photographs of the press conference, and we get the transcript. And then, once we've been to the press conference, we should start seeing bits and pieces from the shows themselves. And I can show you what I mean about the set list. There are a lot of photographs from the press conference. All the photographers snapping away. Actually, there's Sam Phillips. Sam Phillips makes an appearance. There's the little posters for the charity concert. Elvis in his gold lame that he didn't wear at those shows. And here we go, the matinee show. So 3 p.m. and we start seeing pictures, but you'll see the set list, and it even says, note, the above is not definitive. So the official Elvis Presley Fan Club of Great Britain magazine, Mrs. E.R. Branch and Scotty Moore are three of the people they've kind of made an amalgam of what they said was played to come up with the best stab that they could. But it's very rare, isn't it, in Elvis history to find a concert that we have no recordings of, so we don't even know for sure what was played. That's probably one of the only, other than going, way back into the 1954, 55, when we've not got, we probably got a lot there that we don't know what the set list was, but we could take a educated guess because of, what he was doing around the time, the things that he'd recorded, set lists of concerts that we do know that happened around the time. But obviously here, this is unknown territory. He's not performed since 57. This is the first time in 61. So we don't know for sure. But there, as you can see, Elvis in a grey tux jacket. He's got the tuxedo trousers. I'm not sure if the shoes were blue, because I know he wore some blue suede shoes in other shows when he wore formal attire, but I'm not sure if these were. Probably does say somewhere here. But yeah, you've got all the photographs that they could find of the show itself. Just so cool, and such an air of mystery about it, really, isn't there? The idea that, hey, we don't know for sure what he played. It is brilliant. Some of them are a bit dark and grainy, but they are what they are. To have a record is just fantastic. Eyewitness accounts, people up there, musicians. Evening show, 8:30 p.m. and we get a lighter tuxedo with a sort of brocade trim on the collar rather than the black collar. And there we go, the approximate set list. And this is from Gary Pepper, Lou Holm, Billy Burke, Louise O. Spencer and Scotty Moore. So, there's been some quite, and they even show you there the set lists as they were reported by three of them and how they differ. And so they've sort of come up with a guesstimation of what the set list probably was, which, yeah, I just think that's amazing. But yeah, just fantastic stuff. Elvis with his customised Gibson J200. By this stage I think Scotty Moore had the Elvis Presley put in it on different pickguard, put on it and customised it, and that's the same guitar that he brings out later on in 69-70 in Las Vegas. So yeah, you get these brilliant photographs taken on the day. All the stage setup looks a bit amateur, doesn't it? With the, I don't know, it's got a village hall feel to it. I'm sure it was obviously a bigger venue than that, but perfect. Now, of course, this being an FTD, you'd kind of expect, had they had the recordings, that your CD with it would have been the recorders of the show, but of course they don't have those to go with it. So what we get on this, we actually get potluck. But there's some shows, and so there's some photographs the next day at Graceland. Then we get March the 4th. So what are we doing on March the 4th? Still in Graceland. Now this is interesting. March the 8th. Elvis goes to the Tennessee State Capitol. And why does he go to the Tennessee State Capitol? Well, they make him an honorary colonel. And that was something, until I pulled this out the other week and had a look through it, I'd completely forgotten about. So it wasn't just the colonel that was an honorary colonel. Elvis was an honorary colonel. So it's funny when it's all the colonel. I wonder if they ever went, you know, what you mean? Oh, that colonel. Because Elvis was an honorary colonel himself. And he didn't buy the title, as I'm sure Parker did. Elvis was bestowed it in this ceremony, and look, there he is wearing the black belt pin again. He was really proud of that. Really proud of that. Yeah, so you see it really well there. So yeah, addressing the state legislature, and I think, actually, if I remember rightly, and we'll see when we get to the end, but I believe that the CD includes some of the recording of his speech to the state legislature. So, yeah. And then we've got Elvis visits prison. En route home to Memphis after Wednesday's visits to the state legislature, Elvis Presley stopped for approximately 45 minutes at the state prison. He toured various workshops, dining hall and death house. That's nice. And is he... Yeah, he's still got his black belt pin on. Bless him. So yeah, these are photographs at the prison. They're just, you know, fantastic detail. I love the way these FTD books, certainly around this time, this particular format, give you a real sort of snapshot of a moment in time. So you start at the beginning. Well, actually, you're not even right at the beginning. You start sort of February 1960, and you only go up through to March. So it's a very sort of focused window snapshot in time that they give you. So yeah, we finished in the 12th and 13th, the recording sessions that would form the Something for Everybody album. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Fantastic. So let's just see what the CD gives us. There's the CD track list. So it is the Something for Everybody album. Then you get the Hotel Claridge press conference prior to the Ellis Auditorium shows, and then you get Elvis Presley is made an honorary colonel at the state legislature. I really wish that was an easier word to say. I'm hashing that most of the time. But yeah, there's your track list of your CD with this particular release. So that's a little fine one to get your hands on if you can. Memphis to Nashville, 61. So, before we finish, that's kind of the main bulk of what I've got to show for 61. So after Something for Everybody is released, Elvis records the soundtrack for Follow That Dream. July the 11th to August the 28th, he films Follow That Dream. He's back in Studio B in October to record some more masters that would end up, you know, coming out the following year on the next album. Then basically he records the Kid Galahad soundtrack and he films Kid Galahad. And right at the very end of that year, the Blue Hawaii album comes out in October and the movie hits American cinemas late November. So when we go into the next year, there's an Elvis picture out again, and this time it's Blue Hawaii. But yeah, 61, quite a year of change, I think. If you start right at the very beginning and you've got you start with a very serious movie in the cinemas, and then you end the year with the exact opposite in the cinemas. And in between, Elvis performs live on 2 occasions, 4 concerts, and that's the last we'll see him live until 1969. And he's also made an honorary colonel, you know, something I'd completely forgotten about. So that's about it. That's a whistle-stop summary, and I can see that I'm already 40 minutes. So as I said at the beginning, let me know if I'm waffling too much, and I'll do my best to trim it down a bit. But next time, I want to take a little look at that performance at the Block Arena for the Pearl Harbor Memorial, and then we'll talk about Blue Hawaii, because I think Blue Hawaii really does deserve an episode. It's such a monumental influence on what will shape the next few years that I think it really does deserve an episode on its own. But until then, I really hope you've enjoyed this little episode. If you have, if you could click on the old like for me, that would be really appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing if you wouldn't mind. I'd greatly appreciate it. Next week, let's have a look at the Pearl Harbor Memorial Benefit. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Ta-da.
We'll meet you again. May God bless you. Adios.